Hello there and welcome to Sexton Soccer Stories with me, your host Brian Sexton. Welcome to the next episode. This is a podcast about former and current Scottish footballers who have graced our beautiful game. Today I'm absolutely delighted that I have a sponsored show today and somebody's shown some real faith and some real support in me. So a big thank you to Top Cat Window Cleaning, Paul and Kath. I want to say a big thank you to you for supporting me and showing some great faith in me, and it means a lot and it means the world to me and my family. So thank you very much, Top Cat Window Cleaning. Today I'm going to be welcoming a Scottish footballer, former Scottish footballer, an absolute gentleman of the Scottish game, former Motherwell, St Mirren and Kilmarnock legend, Mark Reilly. Mark, welcome to the show.
I'm looking forward to it, Brian.
So, how was your journey in? It's freezing out there.
It was good, it's cold. The train was the usual. ScotRail delayed a couple of minutes, but all good. We're here, so all good.
So, for those that are watching and for those that are looking, I've got a book just sitting in front of me here. I'll talk about the book later on, but this is a book that Mark's managed to go about and pull something together. He'll be able to tell you a wee bit later on. So, the book is The Lives of Reilly. So if you get an opportunity, once you have listened, please go out and purchase this book. It is a phenomenal read. And it's going to be going to a charity that's really close to Mark's heart, but we'll discuss that later. But it's sitting here. Please, if you can go about and get it ordered, it'll be from namelesstownbooks.com, and the link will be in my bio on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook. Sorry, Mark, I forgot to include that, but we'll edit that then when we get into the shop. So,
oh, that's cool, Brian.
So thanks very much coming in.
I look forward to it.
It's amazing. I'm absolutely delighted. I've done a wee bit of research. I've spoken to numerous people about you. But as far as I'm concerned, your career speaks for itself. So hopefully I can take you down memory lane a wee bit and take you on this journey again, just in how your football career had kind of panned out for you. For me, your football career has been absolutely amazing. So I hope you can get a wee bit of comfort out of what you've done in the Scottish game and what you've put towards our game. So I just want to take you right back to when you started playing football. How did it come about?
Oh, for as young as I can remember, Brian, it was all I did, come in for school, and probably like a lot of kids back then. It was for a working class family in Bellshill. Just loved playing football. Just in for school out, playing. If I had no pals to play with, I'd just play myself, kicking the ball off the lockups. Playing keepy uppy. Your mum shouted you in for dinner. You'd eat your dinner as quick as you could, then back out again, and that was it every day. So there was nothing else. It was just football, and that was my life. Loved it.
And that was the life of a footballer then. The street lights were your, and then you had your lampposts as the goals, and
the jackets.
Do you feel that kind of set you a good grounding then on and how to go and play about football? Do you think that's lacking a wee bit now with the comfort of 4G parks and 5G parks and nice changing rooms? Do you think that's taking a wee bit of character out of some of the players now?
I think society, it's totally changed now, hasn't it? I mean, you don't see kids playing in the streets now. In fact, you see very few games in the local parks as well. And if young kids are good enough, they're affiliated to clubs and they're getting coached, which is a good thing. But in terms of just the day-to-day enjoyment, I don't think it's quite the same as it was. There's obviously a lot more for kids to do now than there was back when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But no, it's, as I say, society's changed. But no, it was. I wouldn't change it for the world. It was great times.
Mm-hmm. So you grew up in Bellshill. Did you go into a local team then before you kind of started catching the eye of some scouts or some teams round about then?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's boys' club back then. You played with your school maybe in the morning or whatever, and I played with St Columbus Boys Club for I was about 9, I think, and then I think I went to Thornleywood United Boys Club, and Motherwell, ended up signing S for him in Motherwell, and just went from there really.
Okay. And so when the Motherwell, the S forms generally were about 14, was that what age you were roughly?
Yeah, I was about 13, 14, I think at the time. Yeah, signed with Motherwell. I was obviously training a couple of nights a week with them. It was a scout, Alistair Stevenson. Alistair went on to scouted at Rangers, and he was at Hibs and St Johnstone as well. Very good. So yeah, it was goes by quickly, but yeah, it was great times. I say it was just constantly football, just nothing else.
Yep. So did you, one of the guests I've had on before, get buses and and various bits and pieces to get to training. Were you no bad? Did you have a driver to take you to places, or did you just make your own way?
Well, initially when I left school at 16, saying to my mother, well, I couldn't drive, but remember Jamie Dolan?
Yep.
Sadly, Jamie's no longer with us. Jamie went on to have a good career with Motherwell, did the United, etc., and some other teams. Jamie lived in Salisbury, and he was driving quite early. I think he was 17, passed his test, and Jamie used to pick me up at Bellsill and drive us through. The two of us would drive through to Motherwell together.
Brilliant. So how did that come about then? You went to Motherwell. Was it the phone call to the house, or was it a scout that came to speak to your manager of your club? Can you remember?
I think if my memory serves me right, my memory's not the best. I think I was playing for the kind of Lanarkshire schools, and Alistair Stevenson was a scout at the time, and he just asked me to go and train. I trained a couple of times with Hamilton. Celtic had asked me to get in and train, but Motherwell was kind of local, and I had been training there for a while, and they just asked me to sign an S. Back then it was an S form, and that's what I did. So trained a couple of nights a week and played with your school team and your boys' club.
And what position were you then?
Centre midfield. Yeah.
So the position you kind of finished up in, and
I mean, I can go on to talk about it, but I ended up getting selected for the Scotland schoolboys at fullback. Alistair had said to me the competition will be quite tough in midfield. He said, but if you play left back, he says, I think you've a good chance of getting selected in the Scottish schoolboy team. And that's what happened. I played left back, and I got in the Scotland under 15s of schoolboys, which we can probably go on to talk about. Was a real frustration for me because I knew I didn't have the attributes as a fullback to play where I wanted to play, and that was at the top level, at Premier League level. I knew I wasn't quite good enough, and when I left school, I ended up at Motherwell in the reserves back then, left back, and when I played a couple of first team games, it was left back, but I knew I wasn't good enough.
No,
in that position. Yeah.
So who was in the middle of the park then at Scotland then that they were maybe putting you off a wee bit for getting in there for the competition? Can you remember?
The Scotland schoolboy team that I was in, I'm trying to think of some of the players that went on to have a career. Gus McPherson that I played with.
And was Gus up front, or was he at right back?
No,
then?
Gus would have been the right back.
Okay.
I think David Robertson at Aberdeen Rangers.
Phenomenal.
I think David Robertson was playing left wing.
Just in front of
you. Yeah, Billy McKinley.
Yep.
Was in the midfield, and Big Derek White was playing. So
there was some fantastic players.
I'm trying to think. The other midfield players I can't really recall, to be honest.
And did you stay in that until obviously it moves on then to the kind of under 18s and then the under 21s, etc.? Or did you play in the schoolboys and then just back to Motherwell again, and then you kind of continued obviously in the left back role?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the schoolboys set up. Everybody's at school. It's under 15s, right. And I played for Scotland under 16s as well. And then by that time, I had left school. I did okay at school, get back then my low grades, but there was no plan B for me. It was absolutely. I just wanted to leave school as quickly as possible and be a football player. That's what I did, and I went to Motherwell. So in terms of the international setup, I think because of that frustration, I was at Motherwell playing left back. As I say, I wasn't good enough in the full back position to progress in that role.
So is this because you're older now, you realise you weren't good enough? Or
no,
did you
I knew at the time. It was a kind of real
frustration.
It was because I was wanting to play.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say I get disheartened, but things certainly changed for me later on when I get that opportunity to play midfield under Tommy Burns that we can go on to discuss.
So when you went to Motherwell, were you on the ground staff then? Was that
I was.
So did you do the kind of thing that people done, all the chores, all the cleaning of the boots, and
we did.
So obviously for our younger listeners, that's kind of they don't understand what that is now. So could you just tell us what a kind of normal day of ground staff was?
A normal day would have been training in the morning with either with the first team or with maybe another setup. If there was too many players to train, you would maybe just train with the reserve team back then, so to speak. But we normally trained with the first team quite a lot. And after that, it would be chores, which would be cleaning everybody's boots. It would be cleaning out dressing rooms. It would be cleaning the baths. It would be on a Friday for a match. It was back then. It was old terracing as well. So you would brush, you'd sweep the terracing. You would clean every seat in the main stand. So yeah, there was a lot of chores, shall we
Yep,
say,
aye.
apart from playing football, which I don't think would happen nowadays.
No, absolutely not. And it was the coldness. As it's a cold night tonight, and I remember the cold nights in Greenock myself. You're sitting there trying to sweep out fagged outs,
Yeah.
but I feel your pain. But
But-
I think it built character though.
Oh, 100%. It was a great learning curve, and it really did build character. And I remember one that actually talking about the cold winter. It was a winter day, and it was back the away dressing room had just the big baths. That everybody went in this big open bath that are long gone as well. And it was Big Tam Forsyth was the assistant manager at the time, and Big Tam was great. Did it sold enough to remember as a player. Big Tam he was hard as nails and he was tough, but he had a soft side to him as well.
Yep.
I remember one Saturday morning, he phoned us up and said, "Look, you need to get in here. We need to clear the snow off the pitch for a game." He said, "But I need to speak to you about something as well. So get yourselves in here." And the buses were off, so I had to actually walk. I walked from Bellsill to Fir Park. And we got in, and they had us all in the dressing room and pulled us up because there was one bar of soap in the big bath. So there was standards set as well.
You're on it together.
We were in it together, and then we had to clear the snow off the pitch as well. So yeah, there was a lot went on other than just playing football.
Aye, of course. Aye, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So Tom Forsyth, was it Tommy McLean the manager then?
Tommy McLean was the manager, and again, looking back, absolutely phenomenal coach. I think back then, way ahead of his time. I mean, the McLean brothers have a great reputation in terms of their coaching. But we Tommy was a fabulous coach. Not the biggest in terms of stature, but he was ferocious. As young players, I remember reserve games if he was there. His attention to detail and his memory for every incident that happened.
That's amazing, and even back then.
Back then, and you would be coming off at half time terrified, thinking, is he going to give me a rollicking here? Because he remembered everything. But fantastic coach, really, really good.
And he would obviously been there at the time, and he did Tom. And then would have been Tom that done most of the training, or would Tommy have done the training as well for the setups during the week? Or was it he the boss and that's it?
He was very much hands on.
That's good.
He was a coach and a manager. Obviously, Big Tam Forsyth
excellent.
Come in as well and did a bit, but we Tommy was very much hands on.
And everybody I spoke to, Tommy said that he obviously, if you done your job and you done it right, he looked after you. He was really good.
No, he was very fair, and even when I left Motherwell, he was fantastic with me. When it was time, I was getting really frustrated because I wasn't going to be a regular on the first team at fullback, and I went in to speak to him. He was great with me. He said, "Look, there's another year's contract for you here." He said, "But I'll try and phone about for you, see if I can get you a club."
That's amazing.
He says, "If we don't get you another club," he says, "there's another year here for you." So he was fantastic. He was really fair with me.
But he would have probably obviously realised that you've got attributes that he could utilise. And I know it's not to your, you wouldn't be happy about where you're playing, but he's now looking after you and looking after his own interests as well. But so when did you make your debut then? Who did you make it against? Can you remember?
I think he phoned me on a Friday night. I always remember it was coming out the blue. And I believe it was Hibs at Easter Road against wee Mickey Weir. I think we lost the game 3-2. I played left back. And yeah, it was great. I mean, David Cooper was in front of me. So, I mean, that was all I had to do was roll the ball 3 yards
to him. About then, about 18, 19?
Around about that.
Yeah,
I would
have the guidance of a guy like that just in front of you.
I had him in front of me, and I had Big Tam McAdam inside me, who again, great pros. It was fantastic.
But it'd have been nice if you'd been in the middle of the park. Which
in an ideal world, it would have, But it wasn't to be.
Imagine the excitement though, playing though, and like telling your family you're making your debut. The more I thought, and back then the crowds would have been a lot more than what they are now, and it must have been some buzz just to. I'm going to play in the Premier League. It's just amazing. So
it was great.
You stayed there for about 3 years, 88, about 91, roughly, and then is that when you kind of spoke to him? And then did somebody go about looking for you to get another club, or did Tommy recommend another club coming in for you? Can you remember?
Well, back then there was no really. It was probably just before the time of agents. So no, we Tommy come back to me after that conversation. I told him I was a bit frustrated and, you know, I would like to try and play first team football. And he says, look, there's another year here for you, but if you don't get something, he says, I'm happy to keep you. He said, but I'll try and phone about. So I think it was the next day he contacted me and says, look, I spoke to Jim Fleeting at Kilmarnock. If you want to go down and speak to them, they're keen to sign you. And that's what happened. I went down and spoke to Jim Fleeting at Kilmarnock and ended up signing right away. Kilmarnock were obviously out of the Premier League at that stage in the first division. So it was an opportunity to try and get more first team football. But again, that frustration continued for me because he was signing me as a left back. Yeah.
And did he sell the club to you then at that, the journey that they wanted to take?
Yeah, well, Kilmarnock, they were obviously a progressive club. Kilmarnock have obviously, historically, they're a good club, a big club. They'd won the league in the 60s, so they were looking, they had some part-time players, but they had some full-time players, and their ambitions were to get in the Premier League at that point. And they had signed, obviously, Tommy Burns, Billy Stark. So, yeah, they were ambitious.
So that was the kind of, I mean, obviously a lure like that. Did you speak to anybody about it before
I didn't, no. I just went down, spoke to Jim and agreed and signed that day.
That's
that
amazing,
was
isn't it?
Just as quick as that.
And to be honest with you, if Billy Stark and Tommy Burns were kind of kicking about, I don't think it would be a difficult choice for a young guy to think to yourself, I'm going to play. But then it's up to you then, if you do want to go and then play in the centre of the park, then you're looking to maybe try and improve from left back into the centre part and see how you can go about doing that. So did you have a conversation with Jim and say, look, I'd prefer to play in the middle of the park, or did you just sign as a left back and that was it?
No, at that point I was just happy. He was signing me as a left back. I was aware of that, so I was just happy to try and play there and do my best. It wasn't, obviously, unfortunately, Jim got the sack and Tommy took over as caretaker, and he pulled me aside. He said, look, he says, I'm being honest with you. I said, I don't think left back's your best position. He says, you've got attributes. I think you can play midfield. He said, but I'm going to be honest with you. He says, I want you to go home tonight and have a think and come in and tell me tomorrow, do you want to be a football player? He says, if you want to be a football player, he says, I'll help you and we'll make a go of it. He says, I'm going to give you a chance to play midfield. He says, and it's up to you. And to be honest, it was a light bulb moment I needed, but it was also music to my ears because I thought, I'm getting an opportunity here. And I knew I had to take it. And I was determined I was going to take it.
Absolutely. And so did you think to yourself, right, if Tommy Burns is looking at me and sees me as something in the middle of the park, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to impress him and show that I can actually do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So did you go home that night and knew right away that yep, I want to be a footballer?
I did. Aye. It was kind of a light bulb moment. Yep. And, I mean, he was fantastic in terms of back then motivating players and getting the best out of players. I mean, he loved coaching. He was hands on, but he had an aura about him as well. He was great. He was, again, he had that red hair. He had a really quick temper. He was really dry sense of humour. He was really funny. So passionate. So many different aspects to his personality. He was unique. But he was fantastic. Without a doubt, the biggest influence in my career.
Is that right? So that was a question I would have asked you later on. But so at that point of your time, you're probably about 19, 20, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And he's now then becoming the biggest influence in your career.
Yeah.
Did you need to get in the morning and chap his door and say, boss, I'm ready to go?
Well, that next morning I went in, I said, look, I says, I've had a wee think, Gaff, and I want to be a football player. And he went, right, good.
Amazing.
It's fantastic.
Aye. And
it was a kind of light bulb moment for me, as I said, that the kind of penny dropped, where I think going back to the Motherwell days, I think it's quite common, and I was no different for a lot of young players, that when you leave school, you think, oh, I'm a football player.
Yep, absolutely.
And in actual fact, you've only been given the opportunity to be a football player. And I learnt that quite quickly. And there I was a few years down the line. I felt really getting that opportunity to play where I wanted to play and where I think I could be the best player. For me and for the club I was playing for was centre midfield rather than full back.
Yep. So did they go full time then? Was there any part time players, or was it just
Yeah, I think as Kilmarnock progressed, then I think Tommy was keen and pushing for full time. I think he was of the opinion that to be a Premier League club and sustain that, and even to get there, that was best served if the club was full time. So yeah, eventually the club went full time.
How did you find the travelling doing? Was it all right?
Oh, it was fine.
Aye.
Yeah, it was.
Half an
It
hour
was
down
over
the
the
road.
old. There was no the new, obviously the new roads there now, but it was old Eaglesham Moors.
Aye.
I mean, some of the winter it wasn't great to
No,
travel.
I can imagine.
But no, we get used to it. I travelled that road for about 11 years. Aye, so it was good.
So did you car share with folk then?
We did. We had some great laughs. Big George McCluskey, ex-Celtic, Big Toby, Andy Millen.
Yep.
We had some great laughs, Craig Napier, and then later on, guys like Ali Mitchell, Paul Wright.
Yep. So by this time you're driving, and I believe you might be driving a Volkswagen Jetta, was it? A big white Jetta?
I did have a Jetta, but I think my first car was a Mini Metro.
Okay. And then, so I've got a nice story, but you can maybe articulate it a bit
better
than me.
I can't remember the Jetta. You maybe.
So you maybe broke down at a roundabout in East Kilbride, and George McCluskey had got you and Andy Millen out to get a jump start going down the road in the expressway. I don't know if you can remember that.
I can. Big George was brilliant. He just used to pick him up in the mornings, and he would get the front seat, the passenger seat. Big George was a king, you know.
Aye.
We all looked after him, so he would get a wee sleep, a wee nap in the front seat, and aye. So George was
class.
brilliant. Aye, got treated like a king.
And what a career though.
Oh, George was a great player,
Aye.
great ability, fantastic talent, a lovely big guy as
So
well.
would he have been the senior man then in the team at that time?
George was one of the older players, yeah, he would have been, and a great addition. Tam obviously knew him well. They were great friends for their time at Celtic. They also knew what George could offer and bring in terms of his ability. Even though he was coming towards the end of his career, he was fantastic.
Aye. And was he a kind of big character in your changing room at that point then?
It was. He was. George was a really likeable lad. Everybody loved George. So yeah, and somebody that obviously the younger players would look up to. He was well respected.
Yep.
And as I said, was a fantastic player as well.
Aye. Where did they play him in that team then? When I'm going on to your team now, so when did you get your opportunity to play in the middle of the park? Was it right away after you said that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, it was very quickly after that. But George would have played centre forward, just the main striker, and then Bobby Williamson played as well. So the two of them could play. Bobby was more mobile than George, quick, really aggressive. Bobby was obviously went on to have a very good managerial career, but Bobby was probably one of the most aggressive footballers I played with.
Is that right?
But he wasn't aggressive as a manager.
No,
but as a player, he was nasty. He would leave his foot in, and
so
they complemented each other well.
Absolutely, they play off the front too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your forming your basis. Then who were you in the middle of the park with then?
At the start under Tommy, I mean Tommy would obviously play occasionally. He was player manager. There was Mark Skillen, who Mark would went on to have a really good career, but he struggled with injuries. Fantastic athlete, good player. There was Ali Mitchell, who was just phenomenal. Sean McSkimmon played in the left.
Brilliant.
So that would have been the kind of midfield. But we played a high pressing game back then, so our midfield boys were all fit, all fit lads.
Aye. Who was in goals at that time? Was it Marshall? Gordon Marshall?
No, that would have been. He was post that era, so it would have been Bobby Geddes.
Right. Oh, aye. Phenomenal.
Aye.
Great goalie.
Aye, Bobby was very, very reliable. Had a great left. Back in the days before goalkeepers had to play, everybody's want goalkeepers to be able to play. Bobby had a lovely left peg as well, so he could play.
Aye, just nice.
But he was very reliable.
Aye. So you went on. When did you actually then? You gelled as a team. When did you then think we've got a wee bit of success coming in this year at this time?
I think as soon as Tommy came in, the team really kind of started gelling and kind of pushing and getting up towards the top of the league. I mean, back then, all the teams were decent. All the teams had good players. Hamilton were good. Wraith were strong at the time. There was a lot of strong sides in that league. And then we started getting great crowds as well.
Yep.
So it just kind of snowballed for
Yeah,
there.
like 15,000, 17,000.
They're fantastic.
And the surface at Rugby Park was different class.
Yeah.
Did you just find that suited you then? Because it was always a lovely surface, but it was a very big park.
Yeah, I mean, it was always well renowned as having a lovely playing surface, and that continued. We enjoyed playing there. But I think looking at that team was probably as good without the ball as we were with the ball, because we never gave MD a minute. We pressed really high and we pressed for the full 90 minutes. So Tam he worked in that rigidly every day after training. You know, we'd work in shape, we'd work in pressing.
So do double sessions then? So training in the morning?
We did do double sessions, did quite a lot of double sessions.
Aye. Was that something new to you then, or had you always kind of worked on that?
I think back then double sessions were always the kind of norm in pre-season. But I think Tommy continued that throughout the season. Yeah, we just get used to it. We enjoyed that.
Of course,
yeah,
absolutely.
we enjoyed that. And I think we thrived. We knew that teams didn't enjoy playing against us. And I think when you become aware of that, we kind of thrived in that as well, that awareness.
So did you then form the basis of the team that got promoted then?
Yeah.
So what was that season like? Again, your teams were feared to go down. I remember they wanted to go down to Rugby Park. But when you had got promoted, did they manage to keep the kind of whole of that team, or was there a few boys brought in after that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tommy was quite keen to keep the nucleus of that team, but he was also looking to strengthen as well. During his time, we spoke about Andy Millen. He managed to bring in players like Andy Millen, who was fantastic. And he was slowly looking to keep adding to the squad. Brought in Tam Black as well, who went on played left back, was fantastic. Big Al McInally come in
as well
at one point, you know. Who was
Jake, is it?
Big Jake.
Aye, that's right.
Incredible character as well, imagine. Great in the dressing room.
Aye. So where had he been then, just prior to him coming to your team then?
Well, I think he'd been struggling with his knee for a bit, so he'd been out for a wee bit and get himself fit. I mean, he obviously had a fantastic career.
Aye.
But he was still struggling a little bit. He was obviously well past his best in terms of the injuries were hampering him. But again, he was a fantastic character.
Aye, to have in your team.
Aye, it was great.
Played in Germany for Bayern Munich. And
Aye.
Did he tell you that?
Oh, he tells us every day.
Every day he's telling you that. That's great.
Actually came in one day with pictures of himself.
No, he didn't.
He didn't hand them about. Oh, he's hilarious.
And he's Bayern Munich top? Or just himself?
Just pictures. He's Munich strap and stuff. He was brilliant.
But again, that lightens you up in the morning, doesn't it? And it just gets you going. And it was great. I actually remember we played a wee funny story when we played Morton in the Cup at Capello. And as you know yourself, Capello is a place that teams don't like to go to. And again, we got there and I think it might have been a kind of winter night, a day as well. Sorry, it was a Saturday. And the kit man had actually accidentally packed the under-18 straps instead of the first team straps, so they were a wee bit smaller. And Big Jake was obviously, he was a big guy.
He was a big lad. And Tam had named the team, and he'd named Big Jake in midfield beside me. I think he was trying to use his running power to break for the middle of the park, but it was like, put that strap on, he could hardly get the top on. It was like the Incredible Hulk. And they actually had a minute's silence before the game. And back then, the minute silence, everybody would just stand round the circle.
Yep.
And could see Big Jake was looking to see he looked like a young boy at 17, 18 playing for Morton. Looked as if he was maybe the minute silence, and he's looking and he's like that. You're playing against Big Jake, shouting to the young boy, and you could see the young boy looking, and he's saying, Big Jake, you're playing against Big Jake. It's like, look at me. Big Jake for the München. I was at the München, you're playing against Big Jake. You could see the young boy starting to shake.
Tremble a wee bit.
This is at the minute of silence. So it was a character.
Aye. Did you win that game? Can you remember?
I think we did win the game, but
to have that, but even just to play against that guy would have been brilliant. So.
Aye, but no, he was.
And George McCluskey, was he away then at that time, or was George still there?
That time, I think George might have still been there.
Aye. So you've got the two great players in your changing room, and it's good for you to feed off of then at that point. Do you know what I mean? So do you feel then you're now you're getting the best out of your career. You're really settled in the centre midfield.
Yeah.
Do you feel then you can push on? You in particular can push on to something better, and you obviously quite clearly did push on to something better. That you went on the cup run. So how did you feel going on the cup run when you think we've got a right good chance here?
Is this a 94 cup run?
Yeah.
Yeah. We knew even we'd heard that. I mean, obviously the Rangers team. We played Rangers in the semi, and Rangers were phenomenal. Then they were rolling everybody over.
Was the semi at Hampden?
The semi was at Hampden, but we'd even heard that Rangers didn't like playing against us. I think because of the way we played the game, the high pressing game.
Yep.
Always remember we played Dundee in the quarter final at Rugby Park, and obviously we'd come up that year. And in the majority of games at the start, we were underdogs. But I think the Dundee game felt, we're kind of favourites to maybe win this, which was unusual. And I'm not saying there certainly wasn't complacency. There was never complacency. But I can remember at the time thinking, I prefer it when we're underdogs.
Yep.
And I can remember thinking, I wonder what Tam's team talk will be like the day. And I'll never forget it. It was probably a really unique team talk. I've never heard one like it before it or since it, where he had everybody. And normally you've got your 18-man squad or whatever in the dressing room, and you'll name your team, name your subs, and have your team talk. He had everybody in the home dressing room.
So like the youth team and
everybody, young boys, kitman, everybody. I mean, we had great pros at the time, like Big Craig Patterson, who maybe wasn't a regular. He had everybody in.
There couldn't have been much room left then.
There wasn't, and he's went round everybody in that dressing room. And by the time he finished with you, the hairs in the back of your neck were standing up. I mean, I can remember some of the stuff he said to me, and I know he was probably saying it to make you feel good. But back then, he had such an influence in players, you would have ran through a wall for him. So I remember him saying something to me, when he came to me, it was something like, if there was a Player of the Year award now, you would be getting it.
Yep.
And you're the best player of your type in the Premier League. It was stuff like that, you know, and you're thinking, you're feeling 10 feet tall,
world,
you know. And I think that team talk made the difference that day, because I think the boys went out and gave us that wee edge, you know. As I say, the hairs in the back of your neck were standing up. It was phenomenal. But yeah, so we went on to play Rangers in the semi, and we were confident. Again, I can tell you a couple of stories about that, because again, it kind of highlights the uniqueness in the personality of Tam. He took us away to Seamill before the game.
That was a particular haunt for those down
for his obviously his Celtic days.
Yep.
And I used to room with Big George McCluskey. Me and George travelled together, so I roomed with George.
George's not a night owl though. He liked to
George loved sitting watching the telly. Whereas when it got to about 11ish, I would be trying to get to sleep. So that's what's happened, and it was back in the days before mobile phones. So it must have been it was after midnight. I fell asleep. Big George is still watching the telly, and the room phone goes. So the phone's in between the two beds, and Big George has answered the phone. So by this time I've kind of woke up, and I was aware he was talking to Tam, so I could hear him talking to Tam, and then he says, "I'll send him along." So he comes off the phone. He's like, "Mavis," he says, we all called him Gaffer obviously, but George still called him Tam. He's like, "Tam wants you. He's in room 209. And I'm like, seriously? I've looked this time, looked at my watch, and it's like 1:45 in the morning.
On Eve, a cup semi-final.
And I've threw a pair of shorts on, a t-shirt, and I've went out, and I'm still half asleep. As I'm walking along the corridor, I'm starting to think, surely he's no dropping me for the morning. And I'm thinking, well, no, he wouldn't pull me along at 1:45 in the morning to tell me I was dropped. And then I started worrying a wee bit. I'm thinking, has something happened to a family member back home, and he's been contacted, and he's pulling me in to give me some bad news. So this is all going through my mind. So
maybe a prank. You might be thinking this.
No, I didn't think that. No, I thought, what's going on? Because I mean, 1:45 in the morning. So I've got his door, and I've chapped the door, and he's opened the door, and there he is standing in his Killie tracksuit. And he's like, "Mavis, come in." And I've looked, and next to his bed, he's got a wee round table with 2 chairs sitting, and he's got the wee board, the wee miniature board with the wee men on it for the teams, propped up with a cup. And he's like, sit down. And I'm sitting thinking here, and I'm thinking, he's not going to talk tactics to me at 1:45 in the morning, is he? And then, sure enough, sit down. This is the way we're playing tomorrow. This is our formation. So he starts talking. And I'm not taking it in because I'm thinking, he's bonkers. This is 1:45 in the morning. He says, are you listening to me? And I said, he's obviously clicked that I'm not quite absorbing what he's telling me. And I said, Gaffer, it's 1:45 in the morning. He went, I know, but I can't sleep. And he's like, away you go, back to your bed. So that was him. And fast forward to the game,
I think you were playing. He told you were playing anyway.
He told me the team.
You took that bit in.
He told me the team and told me how we were playing and told me what he was looking for us to do in the game.
Were you man mark anybody or just do your normal game? Or?
No, there was nothing, no man marking in particular that day. So I remember we've kind of fast forward to the game.
Yep.
The team buses kind of went into Hampden, and the 2 buses of the Rangers bus and our bus have actually come in together. I think they get stopped with the police for some reason in at Hampden. So they were kind of, 2 buses were sitting together, and they were literally inches apart, the windows. And I can remember looking in the Rangers bus, they were quite relaxed, you know, they had their tables and they were still playing cards, Hateley's, McCoy's. And
was that Blind Road up in Durant and all that? Was that
Durant would have been there. I don't know if Floudrup would have been playing that day, I can't remember. But anyway, they looked so relaxed, and you could feel the tension in our bus, you know. And Tams, he stood up in the front of the bus, and he said, we've got directors and everybody in the bus, and he stood up in front of the bus, and he said, a team talk. And he's shouting up the bus, you know, we're not here to make up numbers. I better not see anybody walk off this bus with their head down. He says, chest out, heads up, and we walk in here as if we own the place. We're here to win this. We're here to get to this cup final. That kind of type team talk in the bus. And then he sat back down, and I was sitting up the back of the bus. So then I saw the head peep round for the front seat, and he shouts, Mavis, come here. So I've went for the back of the bus, down to the front of the bus, and he says, sit there. So I've sat next to him, and he said, look, he says, Rangers need to know we're in a game today. He says, see first 5 minutes. He says, I want you to smash Stuart McCall. He says, in fact, I want you to start a fight with him. And we'll get all the boys run about it so that the Rangers know we're in it together and they're in for a game here. We need to let them know early they're in a game. He says, so I want you to smash him, start a fight with him. He said, but don't do it anywhere near the penalty box. We can't give away a free kick early outside the box. He says, and whatever you do, don't get sent off. We can't afford to go down to 10 men either early in the game. He's like, you got that? He says, run that by me again. I said, so you want me to smash Stuart McCall? In fact, you want me to start a fight with him? You don't want me to do it anywhere near the 18-yard box? And I've not to get sent off. He's like, right, you've got to slap me. Away you go. Back up the bus. So it was bonkers.
And did you manage to get involved in that?
I think I did, actually.
Aye.
I think I did.
No booking?
No, I think back then you get
a warning, a few warnings, aye.
First tackle was a freebie back in the days. Right, you could scythe somebody in two and you get away with it.
But did that give you great pride that Tommy Burns, with the career he's had and the legend he was in the game, that he's entrusted you to do his team talk at... Oh, I mean to ask you, did he ask anybody else to come to his room at 1 o'clock in the morning, or was it just yourself? Can you remember?
Not to my knowledge.
Not your knowledge. So he's entrusted you to come to his room at that time, and then entrusted you in the van. You must have felt brilliant. Like, he's really... And then was McAnally on the bus was at that time as well?
He was, actually. He was,
so it'd be funny to see them. He would have been into the nice clothes at that time, as you know? Oh,
he was. Part of his... we can remember when the two buses were together, again, it was just all fun. He was... he's then started, look at them big time Charlies. Who do they think they are? Big Jake played with the München. So he always wore Versace, and he used to always say it was one off Versace, so he would wear it once and then bin it. Yep. It was just a carry on, but he had a Versace. So he's battering the glass in the bus, and he's shouting at Mark Reilly, oh, Reilly. And he's pointing to the label. He's like, Big Jake only wears Versace, one off Versace. So
aye. And they'd have probably been laughing.
Haley was killing himself.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. And they had that respect. That's what I like about it. And they were a team, though. They were a team of winners.
They were fantastic.
Aye, and fantastic. So was it a difficult game on the day then?
I think looking back over the two, it went to replay. We drew. I think we were unfortunate, to be honest, not to get to the final. We had a really good chance, not really late on.
As well, that's right, aye. It was 1-0 in the replay, wasn't it?
It was a rehearsed corner we'd worked on, and we had a really good chance. And there was obviously the replay, there was a lot of kind of dubiety in one of the Rangers' goals, whether it was over the line or not. I don't think you could tell, to be honest, whether it was over the line. But they got the goal, so it wasn't to be.
So that was one of kind of low point of your career a wee bit then, in the sense of you haven't made it, but again, you have came further than where you expected maybe. You got to about 98 and new contracts were up for debate and stuff. Were you feeling like moving for Kilmarnock during that time, or were you kind of still feeling quite comfortable where you were and for the success that you had?
No, you're talking about the time when I left and went to Reading. At the time, I loved my time at Kilmarnock. I didn't want to leave. But the contract negotiations were conducted through the chief executive back then. And I can remember speaking to wee Pat Nevin, and there was obviously, he made me aware that there was a lot of money coming into the league and wages would be increasing, which they were. I knew Kilmarnock had started spending money, you know, people like Colcard and big wages. You know, I knew like Durante and Coisty were coming in, they'd been decent wages. And I think I was in about £400 a week at the time. I think my memory serves me, I asked for about 800 and they wouldn't give me it. And I just felt I was, not for the management or my teammates, but I just felt for the club I was a wee bit kind of underappreciated.
Absolutely.
I had never made any money, and it was a lure of Tommy. Tommy's contacted me. He was at Reading at the time. He says, "Can you believe Kilmarnock have no signed you up? You've not got a new contract when you come here." So I went down and spoke to him. It was just the Tommy Burns lure that sold me. But I didn't really want to leave Kilmarnock.
Of course.
But I just felt, in terms of the contract negotiations, I was just a wee bit underappreciated in terms of what they were offering me. I think I asked for about £800, they wouldn't give me it, and I knew they were paying people well over 100 grand, you know, a year. So, so I ended up signing with Reading.
And then a few injuries and just bounced back. Just didn't work out for you, and that's football sometimes. And
I think, if I'm being honest, I think if Tommy was probably looking back, I think it was a signing that probably wasn't necessary for him to make. I think he probably wanted to bring in players that he knew. He brought in a lot of Scottish boys at the time. He obviously knew me well. He brought me in, but at the time,
maybe brought in too many then. Don't know.
Possibly too many at the one time. And if I'm being honest, somebody like myself who didn't need. The guy Phil Parkinson, who's
middle of the park at the time.
Middle of the park, he was a legend at Reading.
The club had been there for years.
Yeah, now the Wrexham manager. Phil was equally, if no better, player than me. So the job I would have done in the middle of the park, Phil could do equally well, if not better, if I'm being honest. So I think when I signed, I ended up first few games. I think because Phil was playing in the middle, I was playing wide left. And to be honest, again, I didn't have the attributes to play wide left. And then there was a wee injury. I was only there maybe 4 months. But at that period, Tommy, he spoke to me and said, "Look, I think he realised his sell. He says, I've not been fair to you. I've brought you down. I'm kind of playing you out of position. Long term, I wasn't going to benefit the team. Certainly wasn't benefiting me either." And he said, "Look, Kilmarnock Motherwell's in for you." He says, "If you want to go back up the road," he says, "be happy. If we could just, Reading probably just be looking for somebody to cover your wages for the period you've been here,
course,
and let you go." So that's what happened. But I spoke to Motherwell, spoke to Kilmarnock, and obviously we signed with Kilmarnock again.
Did that feel at home, do you think?
It did. I spoke to Motherwell first. Wee Pat Nevin was obviously the chief executive, and I think it was Billy Davis was the manager. So I spoke to. It was actually quite unique. I spoke to Willie McLean, who was at the club at the time. Willie,
Was he related to
Tommy's brother.
Right, okay.
So he spoke to me about the financial deal. Then I spoke to Billy Davis, was the manager, and Billy was honest with me. Billy told me it was Pat that was pushing to sign me.
Which doesn't make you feel welcome if the manager.
It doesn't. No, he was honest. He says, "I've done my homework. I know you're a really good pro, and you'll fit in, and this is where I'm looking to play you." He said, "But Pat's been really pushing for us to try and sign you. Financially, far better off if I had signed with Motherwell." And I spoke to Bobby, and I knew Kilmarnock well. I felt Kilmarnock was my club. The financial package, as I say, wasn't anywhere near as attractive as Motherwell's, but my gut feeling was Kilmarnock's a place to go back to.
Of course.
So
Aye, good. And the fans,
happy to sign again.
of course, and the fans have been delighted. So
Yeah.
So we can't talk about Kilmarnock without taking us on your Scottish Cup journey. What did that feel like to go on and win the Scottish Cup?
Yeah, it was great. I remember that people don't remember the games kind of leading up. I think we played East Stirling maybe the first round, and then Clyde, and we were really poor in the game, scraping through. And then we played Morton at Capello. We won 5-2. We played quite well that day. We played Dundee United in the semi.
So who'd have been in that Morton team? Maybe Alan Mahood, a former Killie player.
Hoodie was playing. I think Hoodie might have scored that day, actually.
Okay, aye. And that'd have been a difficult. You'd have probably thought
that was always a really difficult venue. And again, Morton had some good players, so that would have been a game we wouldn't be particularly looking forward to, because nobody liked going to Capello at that time.
No. And who was in your team then at this point? Who was the kind of the mainstays along with yourself in the team?
It was probably kind of similar to the team that went on to win the cup.
So you get through that tie, and then you've got the semi.
The semi
was that Hampden? No, it wasn't Hampden.
No, the semi was Easter Road.
Yep.
Played Dundee United at the time. Tommy McLean was the manager at Dundee United at the time.
So did they? It's not really. I suppose it is in the middle, isn't it, between Killie and Dundee, but it's not really. But did you just take a good crowd through with you then? Can you remember?
Yeah, Killie would always take a great support. And I think, if my memory serves me right, back then, out with the Old Firm, Dundee United were the Forum team. So they were probably favourites. But it was a typical, really tense semi-finals. We obviously managed to get through to the final, where we obviously played Falkirk at Ibrox.
But seeing the photographs at Easter Road, it looked like it was an amazing achievement, because I remember the backdrop where all the fans are there. And is it at that point, do you think to yourself, we've got a right good chance here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think looking back in your career, even when you're playing the Old Firm, I think you've got that awareness that you're not going to, when you sit and rationalise it, you're not going to win the league, you're not going to. But I think as a player, looking back, every game you went into it thinking, no matter who you were playing, we play at our best. You never went into games thinking we're going to get beat. You're always going into games thinking we're going to win this.
It's a brilliant mindset to have, and that's obviously something we'll talk about later on. But to have that mindset, the positivity in the game, you get into the final. It's at Ibrox, 50,000. Did you stay in Seamill the night before that one? Can you remember? No, really.
No, I think we maybe stayed in Irvine, but I think Bobby gave us a choice as to whether we wanted to sleep in our own beds the night before, or whether we wanted to go to a hotel. And I think I went to the hotel.
Did you get a sleep, or was it? Nah.
Not really.
I know, I can imagine.
But you're thinking, a young daughter at the time, and you're thinking, maybe in a hotel you might get a better sleep. But nah, you don't.
No, and the nerves are
when you've got a cup final, you don't sleep brilliantly.
And there was no mobile phones really then, so you just got on with the game and you went to the stadium. And so were you buzzing on the bus? Can you remember, or were you all just really focused on, we need to get this job done?
Yeah, I think, no disrespect to Falkirk, Falkirk would have been thinking the exact same thing. I mean, I think as players we were aware that we were never going to get a better opportunity to win a cup and to win a major cup. and probably the prestigious cup
Oh,
in
it is.
terms of,
It's
it's the Scottish Cup. So it was last game of the season.
Aye.
I mean, the League Cup's great.
No.
But I think the Scottish Cup and in England FA Cup, they were always growing up as a kid.
Yep.
The cup finals were magical.
Yep. Well, you took me back there when you were kicking the ball about the street. When you were kicking the ball about I was a certain player and you were always winning the Scottish Cup. This is a shot to win the Scottish Cup. It wasn't any other cup.
No.
It wasn't for me anyway. So like for you to actually get the opportunity to win the Scottish Cup with the team and the boys, and to actually, what was the feeling like?
Yeah, we scored first. Paul Wright scored.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of the lead up to the game, I can just remember coming into the bus towards Ibrox and being absolutely blown away by the. I mean, it was obviously kind of friendly final,
of course, aye.
with Falkirk and Kilmarnock, but it was just a sea of blue and white everywhere, and the buses couldn't. Could hardly get into the stadium. It was just everywhere.
Your mates looking for tickets and comps and stuff, did you?
Yeah.
Many did you get ahead? Can you remember?
I can't remember.
No.
Too long ago.
I can imagine.
But the game itself, I think you're so focused to try and do your job and win the game.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say your concentration levels are such. You don't get to enjoy it. And then I can remember Falkirk was under a bit of pressure second half. I can remember when the final whistle went, first thing I thought was, which is, you think this is bizarre, first thing I thought was, it's not good enough. We can play better than that. I was actually raging that we didn't play the way we can play and impose ourselves. And that lasted for a couple of minutes, and then reality kicks in, and you're like, doesn't matter.
Wait a minute here.
We've won the cup in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time.
Yep.
Nobody will remember.
Nobody remembers
how well you played.
No, I remember Alex Ferguson saying that about his Aberdeen team.
Yeah.
There was only 2 players that day. He was disappointed in and it's one regret that he does. I regret saying that. He said that I'm annoyed that because we won the cup, because as you said, like, nobody will ever take that back for you.
No.
So when it's set in, and just in over the moon, cloud 9, is it no just what an amazing feeling? Is there any memories you remember for any of your mates on the park, like what they're doing, or was it just a blur?
No, it was just a blur, and can remember the going round, and I think it's a relief as well, knowing that it's done.
Aye.
You can relax, and I think you get so much pleasure of seeing the crowd, the supporters, so happy.
Yep.
That's where I think the real kind of joy comes from, and I think if you ask anybody that played that day, everybody talks about what's your memory of the cup final. It's the open deck bus in John Finney Street, where
that's what I was
it was phenomenal. There's people up lampposts. It was.
That's what I was going to ask you next. So you've got the trophy, you've got your medal. You're obviously in the change rooms. I can't imagine the scenes in there. It's just been overwhelming. You jumped the bus. Was the bus open top from Ibrox, or did you go to a venue first, pick it up, and then go?
Yeah. Well, I actually get picked for the drug test right away.
Oh, you're joking.
There was 2 for each team. So as soon as the game was finished, we get took away for
half an hour
for a urine sample for the drug testing. But it was a kind of warm May day, so we were dehydrated. So it actually took us a bit of time to produce a urine sample. So we actually held the bus up, so it was a normal bus, and then we went down to Kilmarnock and get the open deck bus, and it was fabulous.
I can imagine. So when you turned on to Finney Street, was it just?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. It was just
everybody in Ayrshire there.
Everybody, I think the whole Ayrshire was there.
Except the United fans.
Aye,
they've been too pleased. But and do you remember, like, see when you were kind of on it, and it's obviously surreal, and we're using suits or tracksuits, can you remember?
No, we were in suits.
Aye, so you've got the suits on, and you're looking about, and are you recognising like kind of people that have been on the journey, maybe away in a November night, that come and follow you and shouting at you, and just, or is it just like?
I think it was just a massive
amazing.
People.
Aye, I
just too many.
Too many, and just I could imagine the see it, and the feeling must have just been exhilarating. And so, where did you go after that? Did you go back to Rugby Park from that, or did you?
I think we actually had a celebration in the hotel in Irvine.
Okay,
my memory serves me
right. A few
right,
shandies.
Yeah, but it was a wee bit not an anticlimax. I can remember, and I can totally understand. I kind of get it. can remember Frank Lampard talking about winning the Champions League, and then after it, kind of thinking, is this it? And I think that night it was a wee bit like that. I think we were just, I certainly myself, I was just exhausted as well with I think the occasion, the game,
and it was
just
warm as
drained
well,
you.
and it was hard
warm.
going, and
And I actually wasn't in the mood for partying, to be honest.
Aye. But did you say a few of the boys enjoy?
You take guys like Dylan Kerr that would have enjoyed it for about 3 months.
And you live on that, and
Yeah.
and you go home and you're sitting there, and I know you said to me you gave your medal away. Where did the medal go?
I think initially I got my jersey and the medal framed, but I'm not really big for putting things up in the house or that, so I think it was eventually up in the attic. And then I'm not big in keeping possession, so I eventually gave it away to Tommy Adams, who worked in the commercial department at Kilmarnock for a long time. Tommy done a lot of kind of charity work as well, and I thought, he's a Kilmarnock fan, he'll really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
So
aye.
I actually gave it to Tommy.
Aye, has he still got it?
He's still got it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Aye.
And it's a great piece of history for Kilmarnock fans, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
so your kind of careers, you've went back to Killie then, where obviously you went to Airdrie and then St Johnstone with Billy Stark up there. How did you find your time when you're at St Johnstone and the time you were kind of challenging for a few bits and pieces up there?
Yeah, I mean, I go back and I think I mentioned at the start of this that Tommy was probably the biggest influence in my career, and so was Billy Stark. Billy Stark was somebody that I had so much respect for as a coach and as a man. He's just a great guy, fabulous coach. I probably never wanted to win something so much as I did at St Johnstone for Billy Stark.
Yep.
I wanted for him more than anything to be a success.
Yep.
And again, we had some good players,
The Mixu, Pat Lynham, was that?
Big Mixu up front.
Brilliant.
Midfield was Paul Hartley at the time.
Yep.
Myself, young Ryan Stevenson was coming through.
Hearts,
had a
Ryan
good
Stevenson,
career. Yeah,
brilliant.
With Peter McDonald, with Pizzo up front. Gary Hay, who was at Celtic.
Of course.
Chris Hay, sorry, was at Celtic. Good goal scorer. Simon Donnelly. So we had a lot of good
really
players
good
there,
but
again, just weren't quite good enough to win the league. Falkirk had a good side. Ian McCall had a good side with Big John Hughes and that.
And were you second that year, was it?
I think we finished third.
Third that year, aye.
Inverness had a good side. Clyde were good at the time. Andy Millen and Alan Kernigan and Billy Reid.
You'd have been full time at St Johnstone then still?
We were full time.
Aye. So they invested obviously in a lot of yous, and then as you said, you wanted to repay Billy, but I believe Billy was just a lovely gentleman as well.
He was. Billy was a great guy. Very good coach. He was just a top guy.
Do you feel even at that stage of your career, you were still learning a lot for these guys and obviously passing that knowledge on to the other guys like Ryan Stevenson and Paul and stuff like that? Do you feel like that helped you?
I mean, I think obviously my best days were behind me then. But I think as a player you're always learning. And you're trying to influence younger players and help them and guide them.
Yep. And moving on.
Yeah.
So you had a successful period at St Mirren.
Yeah.
Who attracted you to St Mirren at that time then?
Well, obviously Gus McPherson was the manager and Andy Millen was his assistant. So I'd played with Gus for 11 years, and played with Andy. I was good friends with Andy as well. And the opportunity to go there at that stage of my career was a great opportunity. And I think Gus and Andy were really clever. They had a lot of good young players coming through, like your Kurt Broadfoods at the time.
Yep.
They get Charlie Adam and loan for Rangers. A lot of good young players, but they were really clever in terms of bringing in good senior
experienced
professionals
pros like yourself. Yep.
We obviously had Andy Millen, myself, Kevin McGowan, Big Mix with Pat Lynham.
And a wee blend with the youth there, it kind of brings them on a wee bit. So
I always think at a football club your senior pros are really important, because if you've got a good senior pros for the younger players to maybe pick their brains and look up to and get good habits, it's really important. So I love my time at St Mirren. Training was great, and
you went on to win the Scottish Challenge Cup then?
Won the Bells Cup.
Aye.
And then
and did that feel, similar to the Scottish Cup, even though it's a lower level? Did you feel after you'd won it, you were kind of like, oh, I've won that? Or did you kind of think to yourself, I'm starting to come to an age in my career where it's maybe going to end soon?
Yeah, I was aware that, my career was kind of coming towards the end in terms of me playing. At that time, I was coaching the 19s, under 19s, and the reserves as well. And I was playing in reserve games as well. We try and bring some of the kids on and help them and guide them. But yeah, I knew in terms of top level, my playing days were getting close to coming to an end. But I was 37 at that point, so looking back, probably if I was about 22-ish when Tommy came back to that light bulb moment, I had no regrets because I think I treated every day from that moment like a cup final.
Aye.
So I never left anything. Every day, I mean, not just a Saturday, Monday, Friday, I played the way I trained, the way I played. And
it's a
it was
testament to Tommy Burns being the main influence in your career at that time and your whole career. For him, to his knowledge to put onto you then, and you've just sucked that in like a sponge and moved forward. But obviously, you've played with numerous players, and I just picked up a couple of players through the seasons and a couple of stories that had sprung to mind there. So when you were playing at Kilmarnock, a lot of the players, when I remember, you used to get sponsored. Did you get any sponsorship deals, or was there anything that kind of come up that somebody was going on a trip? And in the hotel room, when you were sharing, you'd give them a cup of tea and some Jaffa cakes. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, we were playing Aberdeen up at Pittodrie, and Robert Connor, Roger, as he was known to us. Roger obviously had a great career at Aberdeen, Dundee. He was a brilliant guy and a really good footballer. So I was rooming with Roger up at Aberdeen the night before the game, playing against his old team. And just prior to that, we had that was way before sports science, but we did somebody come in and gave us a talk on nutrition. And he had said that if you're going to eat biscuits or sweets or anything, eat Jaffa cakes, because they're really good. They're low in fat and high in energy. So I think that had been about a week before the game. So I went out and bought a few packets of Jaffa cakes and took them up to Aberdeen with us. So it's a Friday night. And I've said to Roger, I said, Roger, you want a cup of tea and some Jaffa cakes? He's like, aye, go on, Mavis. So I've made him a cup of tea and gave him a packet of Jaffa cakes. And we've obviously played the game the next day. I think we beat Aberdeen 1-0 and Roger got man of the match. So obviously the press are looking to interview him after the game. I think because of the Aberdeen connection and the fact that we won and they get man of the match. So I think they were asking him, was it an extra motivation for you coming up to play against your old team? He said, no, it was nothing to do with that, man of the matches. It was all down to wee Mavis feeding me Jaffa cakes last night. So it's obviously been in the papers on the Sunday or the Monday. So we went into training on the Monday. And obviously any good publicity McVitie's get must have went to their head office down in London. They've picked up the press or whatever, so they've obviously been aware of this wee story. And unknown to me, the girl, one of the head marketing girls, has contacted the club, spoke to one of the girls in the office and asked would I give them a call. So training's finished and one of the girls has come down and said, Mark, somebody for McVitie's has been phoning for you this morning. They've left a number, you have to give them a call. I'm like, McVitie's? So anyway, I phoned and spoke to the girl and she's like, look, we're absolutely over the moon with the publicity that McVitie's and Jaffa Cakes got for the press up in Scotland. So as a thank you, we're going to sponsor you. So we're going to send you up boxes of Jaffa Cakes. So brilliant. So every week I get these boxes of Jaffa Cakes posted up to Kilmarnock. This went on for about, I don't know, a couple of years maybe.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I wasn't really sponsored, but I did get Jaffa Cakes every other one.
Do you still get them now?
No, I don't get them. That stopped.
I obviously done a wee bit of due diligence, so just to take you down memory
brilliant.
lane, mate, there's a
It's
wee
a while,
box.
it's a while for
A while
one,
since you've
so I
had
look
some.
forward to it.
And then obviously there's another wee memory that I'd like to put in yourself, but you obviously managed to play with Ian Durrant, and the main one for me was the great Alan McCoist. There's a wee story when you were getting a wee bit of ribbon in the change room, and Ali took you and John Henry, I believe, up to Glasgow to the Regano. Could you tell us that story?
That was it. Yeah, it was going back. Myself and John Henry. John Henry was called Zippy back then. It was a Saturday night after a game. The two of us went out in Glasgow, and we decided to go to a nightclub. So back then it was Archaeos, I think, was the club at the time.
Yep.
We weren't in a guest list or anything, so we
No.
were just in the big queue to get in. But of course, when we're waiting in the big queue, half the Celtic team at the time turned up. So I think it was like Craig Burley, Van Hooijdonk, people like that. Straight in. So back then, the Daily Record, I think, used to do like a Saturday kind of supplement thing. So it was like a wee magazine, and it was newsy celebrities in Glasgow for the week before. So they had obviously been there and captured pictures of the Celtic players going into Archaeos that night. But in the background of the picture, you see me and Zippy standing in the big queue with our arms folded like that, watching them. So, of course, the boys have picked up on this, and they've got it blown up, and they've got it in the dressing room wall. So they've got all these captions coming out, etc. So for the majority of the week, we get absolutely slaughtered. They were hammering us, you know. And we actually had a team night out, I think, the week after it. So me and Zippy had been getting pelters for a week. And we're sitting in one of the boozers, and Coisty said to us, look, you fancy coming and meeting my mate for? My mate's messaged me. Fancy coming and meeting my mate for a pint in the Regano? Come back and get the boys after it. I says, aye. I says, we'll go for a couple. Says, not too long. We'll come back and get the boys. I says, aye, you and Zippy. Says, we'll go and meet them. I went, aye, we'll come. So away we went to the Regano, and then walked in, and 4 or 5 guys standing. So it transpired it was Robert Duvall. After McCoist had done the movie with him, he was in with a couple of film directors.
The actor Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall.
Was it Shot of Glory or something?
Aye, the Godfather, Robert
That's
Duvall.
right, aye. Oh, God.
It was great. It was so surreal. The Regano was mobbed and blaring away, and it was, I can remember calling him Robert, and he's like, call me Bobby. My pals call me Bobby. I was like, my pals call me Mavis, so call me Mavis.
Oh, brilliant.
But it was just so surreal, and he was he's a big boxing fan, and I like the boxing, so we were talking about boxing. He was telling me about his upbringing. His dad was in the military, and he travelled all over. He was so down to earth. He was brilliant. And then it came to get a drink, so he's went up to the bar to get a drink, and he shouted, he's like, Mavis, what you want to drink? And I'm like, Bobby, get me a Peroni. And I'm thinking, this is sort of, it was so surreal. Amazing. You know.
And I could see with the smile on your face, it's just brilliant. It's just a And do you think then that was Ali McCoist's way of just saying, I'm going to look after you?
Aye, I think he probably felt sorry for us, but he knew we'd get a ribbon for a week. You know, and he's like, just want to come in. So it was great.
Aye, my pal Bobby.
It was my pal Bobby, aye. So
amazing. So your career's ended. You've then had the news of your daughter Dion's diagnosis. You've then went on a journey of doing a lot of marathons and charity work and various. Yeah. Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, my daughter was born. She's got a condition called Rett syndrome, which is a rare neurological genetic condition. There's no cure for it. So once you get diagnosed with that, I started trying to raise some awareness and a little bit of funds for the charity Reverse Rett, who their main goal is obviously to try and get a cure someday for the condition, but also for clinical trials to try and help those suffering for the condition to maybe live a better life. So I started off just running a 10K, and then I went from that to doing the 3 Peaks Challenge, which is the 3 highest mountains in the UK within a 24-hour period, including the drive. So
you went for a 10k to the Three Peak
yeah,
Challenge.
so it started at Ben Nevis, and then you go to Scafell Pike in the Lake District and finish in Snowdon in Wales. Excuse me. So I did that with a few of my ex-teammates actually. Joined me, Yali Mitchell, Big Andy Millen, Jim Beer, Big Kevin's been a great pal for a lot of challenges with me. So when I went for that to everything I tried to do then, I was trying to increase the difficulty of the challenge and trying to capture people's imagination. So I'd met a pal of mine's in Hamilton. He says, "What are you going to do next?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "What about an Ironman?" I said, "What's an Ironman?" He says, "It's a 2.4 mile swim in open water, 112 mile on the bike. If you do that, the swimming time. And then if you do the bike, the 112 miles on the biking time, you go on and run a marathon."
Oh, great.
I'm like, I said, "I can't swim, and I've not been on a bike since I was about 10. He went, "There you go." He said, "What's the point in doing a challenge you can do? Go and do something you can't do." So I come up the road and signed up for an Ironman in a year's time, Ironman UK in Bolton. Joined a wee swimming club, learned how to swim, got myself a wee bike. So ended up doing 2 Ironmen. And then I was always aware of the kind of iconic Marathon des Sables, which is a 156 mile self-sufficient race through the Sahara Desert. That'd been on my radar for a while, so I thought I'll give that a go. So I signed up for that, and then kind of COVID came, and it got postponed, and I'd already started a Just Giving page. So I thought I need to try and look at something. So I actually looked at all the grounds of the teams I'd played for, like St Johnstone, Motherwell, St Mirren, Kilmarnock, and it was bang on 100 miles between them all. So I thought, I'm going to do a 100-mile run in under 24 hours for the ground. So I did that. I started at Perth, ran to Motherwell. It was during COVID, so they put the restrictions in. So you weren't allowed to run through Glasgow at that point. So I couldn't get run to St Mirren. So I had to miss that out and just run from Motherwell to Kilmarnock, but I was 12 miles short. So I done a loop of Strathclyde Park and then done loops of Kilmarnock when I got there. So completed that, and then the Marathon des Sables was back on for October. So did that. It's been regarded as the toughest Marathon des Sables in history now. It's almost 60 degrees every day. Sadly, a French competitor died in day 2, and one of my tent mates had a cardiac arrest as well, was dead for 2 minutes. Thankfully, they brought him back. So did that, and that's kind of one of the main stories in the book you've got there. And then I did the Marathon des Sables, and then after that, in June there, I completed the Amazon Jungle Ultra, which is again 230 kilometers through the Amazon jungle in Peru.
Brilliant.
So managed to finish third in that. So it's gave me some great experiences and helped raise a little bit of funds and awareness for the.
I think the des Sables, it was £21,000 raised. Does that figure be about right, or is it more than that now?
I think all in for the charity stuff, including the sales of the book, because any profits for the book's £10, so all my money goes to the charity for the book as well. So I think with all those events in the book, I think it's in the region of 100,000 now.
Brilliant. And that's vital, obviously, for the care of your daughter and the other people who are suffering from that. So that's why, obviously, I'm promoting this book. I'm delighted that you've come on today to tell your story. I would love to talk to you for another couple of hours, but unfortunately that's the interview ended. I've got a wee thing to ask. Mindset must have been phenomenal for yourself during all these things. Is there anything you would say to young players that are coming into the game now and to try and achieve the task of becoming a professional footballer and maintaining that? Is there any advice you would give them?
Yeah, I'm a great believer in. I think it depends on the age of the kids. I think if you're a parent and you've got a really young kid, let them enjoy it. I think for young kids who are joining professional clubs as a youth player, what I would say to them, I always had a saying, and it was it's certainly relevant to my career, and I think sum my career up that hard work hides a multitude of sins. So I would say work hard, do your best. Um, every club has good pros. I would say you'll, young players will be aware who the good pros are. Pick their brains, ask them questions, study them, ask them what they do, listen to your coaches, and do your best every day. And see if you do your best every day, see no matter what happens, at the end of your career, if you have a career, you've got no regrets. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days. But all you can do is do your best every day. Don't cheat yourself. Go back to the late, great Tommy Burns. Remember him saying to me, get up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to do my best today. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days. See, before you go to bed at night, stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself again and be honest with yourself and say, did I do my best today? He says, if you can say, yes, you did your best. So you might not have had a good day, but if you've done your best, you can put your head in a pillow and you'll sleep well at night. He says, and see, once you do that day in, day out, year in, year out, he says, then it becomes a habit. And it's a good habit and it's true. So if any young players listen to this, if they can take on that, listen to your coaches, listen to people that are trying to help you improve, take it on board, work hard, and you'll have no regrets.
No, brilliant. Phenomenal bit of advice 30 odd year ago. You've got that advice and you're still passing it on. So,
and I still do it. And actually, for a period, a few months, I actually physically did it. I actually stood in front of a mirror. It became habit form, and they say you can create a habit in 3 weeks now. And it's something that I've carried into my life beyond my football career. It's probably one of the best bits of advice I've ever had in my life.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Mavis, thank you very much. That's the interview finished. I'm overwhelmed here. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out. And everybody, that's the end of the latest episode. Please check me out on my socials. Please subscribe to YouTube and my Instagram. And please, like I say, go and purchase this book. The link will be in my bio. And if you're struggling to get it, just message me. But Scottish football, keep smiling.